I won't have you go around and introduce yourselves and tell me your name and what you teach, although some faces I recognize just from being up here with Greg. But I usually do that, and the reason I do that is because I like to hear what all different areas you're coming from. Some of you are English, some of you are math, some of you are in other special areas, and you're going to bring to this your own critical eye of how to make this work for you, okay? I was an elementary school teacher. I taught first grade. I taught gifted and talented. I was a media specialist before I did this job. So I could never teach high school. That's not my strength. So I'm not here to tell you how to teach what you teach. I would probably be teaching me in most of your classes. What I'm going to help you do today is to learn how to use, if you don't already know how to use, this Alabama Insight tool. Now, when I first heard about Alabama Insight tool, it was talked up to me a lot before I ever first saw it. And when you keep hearing something and you hear all these trainings, people have gone to Alabama Insight training. We had a way to do it on webinar, and then I could go to one live, and it just sounded like this big old mountain. It just sounded like something that was just really, you know, something the State Department has added that's new, and so I couldn't wait to get my hands on it. And when I got my hands on it, I was like, it really is just all that there is to it, because it's just the standards unpacked. And so as I went over this with Greg last night, because he's home recovering from surgery, so I made him go through the training last night, and he said to me, all this is the standards. This is just the standards. And I said, that's right, that's exactly what it is. So when you leave here today, I hope that you come away going, okay, it's just the standards. It's nothing new, but it's a more in-depth way of looking at them. It is a very, very good tool. So I'm going to skip over this slide. We've got a font issue, and also that's a little too hard to see. So I'm going to go here, unless anybody can read that, because this is a blown-up version of what you saw on the previous page. Alabama's CCRS, the College and Career Readiness Standards, are a combination of the Common Core standards plus the Alabama standards, okay? That's a really good thing, because a lot of times in Alabama we get joked about, you know, we're the bottom of the barrel, that kind of thing. But some people are just doing Common Core. We're doing Common Core plus standards that the state of Alabama have said are important. So when you see these standards, you're going to see, like here, a Common Core code, and then when you see the symbol of the state of Alabama, which is what all those little dots are there at the end, that lets you know that that is an Alabama standard and not necessarily a Common Core standard. Okay? Now, I won't read this to you because I know that you can read for yourself, but a couple of these I do want to address. First of all, these standards are aligned with college and workforce expectations. As much as we would like for all of our kids to go to college and have a college degree when they leave us, you and I both know that that is not reality, and that's not going to happen. Some of them are going to go straight into the workforce, okay? And what companies like Kia and Mercedes and some of the larger employees of Alabama have said to us is, our students are having trouble reading technical manuals. So that, a lot of what you're going to see here is an effort to help those kids out when they get out on their own in a workforce situation, okay? And then I always laugh about this. And I'm being recorded, so I have to be real careful what I say here, but you know, when you hear the phrase Alabama State Department of Education and clear, understandable, and consistent, sometimes you wonder exactly how those two things fit together. Tracy Peleologos from the math department and I were talking in an earlier session about sometimes you read a standard and you go, what exactly does that mean? What am I supposed to do? So the Alabama Insight tool is going to be a wonderful tool to help you understand exactly what it is you're going to do, what your students are going to do, and so on. Now, as we go along this morning, you won't probably have to take that many notes. Just watch and learn. There is a user guide. Not that bad. It's about 6 pages, I think. If you just need some reading material, if you will email me, I will send you this. My cards are over here. If you didn't pick up one, you can pick up one on the way out. Looks like that. Or you can go to Google, and you can Google Alabama Insight User Guide. Some school systems have it out on their website. The State Department has it out on the website. But you'll see it's not that big. Okay, we're really going to look at everything there is to do. And then what you have as a handout, hopefully you picked up a handout. If you didn't, you can go grab one real quick, are we out? You're out.
We're out.
I have more. Now you can come grab one if you you ran out before you got here. But that's kind of like the user guide in a nutshell, okay? You may want to write this down if you've not seen this information before, because this is a shift. We're going to see a later slide that talks about this informational text. But in all subjects, we want our students to be reading informational text. Now, I was asked this morning, and it was asked in another Alabama Insight workshop that I went to. Someone said, does that mean in all subjects, or does that mean for students? And we got a kind of a vague answer, but the real answer is, let me come back to this slide. This is where we're going. By grade 12, our students need to be reading 70% informational text. Now, I won't have you go around and tell like how you think you're doing at your grade level, but if we did that, you could start to put together pieces of a puzzle that kind of let you know where we are. Probably Suzette does English language arts. She's going to do more literary text than some of you guys in social studies and science are, okay? And we're not telling her that she's got to change that and do 70% informational text. It is the composite for the student. When they leave, 70% of their reading has to be informational text. But if we don't look at and examine what we're doing, then we don't really know how we're doing on putting that puzzle together. So that's why we have mapping meetings and those kind of things. Let's go back to the shift. I'm sure you've heard of this, text complexity, easy for me to say, vocabulary, text-based answers. But then this is the big one, literacy instruction in all content areas, which is a little different for our PE folks, our theater folks. I was in an elementary school recently, and they had a big board out. I mean, this is it was a K-1 school. And just as the kids go out to PE, it said, today you will be, and it told exactly what they were going to be doing. So just out of curiosity, I just pulled this 5-year-old to the side and I said, what does that say on the board? Because I just wanted to know. And he said, I can't read that, but that tells what our coaches are going to tell us to do outside. And you know what? That's okay where we are for 5 years old, because we want them to have a connection between the written word and what's happening out, in this case, the playground. Okay, so that's what it looks like for kindergarten out on PE. Anybody need more time to get this down? Okay, so here again is the slide about text balance. I have a friend that I taught with. She's a 4th grade teacher. When I was a media specialist, she only allowed her students to check out chapter books from the media center. She always pained me as a media specialist, a whole section of nonfiction books that the kids were not reading, and I knew as a media specialist that the vocabulary was much higher. They need to learn how to read bullet points. They need to learn how to read charts and graphs. So for her, she's got to really work on that shift. Okay? You'll just kind of have to decide where you are and how what you're doing right now fits. Now, again, I'm not going to tell you how to teach. I couldn't. You would all teach me some things. What this is an introduction to this tool that's going to help you unpack those standards. From the State Department, this is the official definition. I won't read it to you word for word. It's web-based software. It's a professional unpacking of the math and English language arts in college and career-ready standards. Okay. It is created by a company in Wisconsin. The State Department paid a lot of money for them to do this. So we have it for our use. So who's going to use it? Just look up there a minute and see if you see anybody who does not fit in one of those categories. So it's not something that your administrator is going to use as part of your evaluation. It's not just something that you're going to use for planning that your administrator is not going to know what's going on with. It's something that everybody is going to look at. And again, just like you do with your disciplines, you will all bring to the table your own point of view. So here's how you get there. And again, I'm not going slow enough for you guys to do this with your laptop. But how many of you are familiar with Alex and have used the Alex website? All right, great. If you are familiar with Alex, then here's one way to get to the website. From the Alex site, you will start with courses of study. You'll choose English Language Arts or Math. And once you get there, you're going to see the Alabama Insight logo. Now, Alex and Alabama Insight are two different things, and we're going to talk about how they're related as we go through this morning. But that is one way to get to the Alabama Insight tool is through the Alex website. Once you get there, you will log in. Now, let me talk to you just a minute about your login, and you may want to write this down. Eventually, you will have an Auburn City login, okay? You will probably all have the same one. So Ben and Billy will have the very same login. Sarah's going to have the same one. It's not going to be specific to the user, okay? Right now, I don't think you guys have Auburn City logins yet. So right now, if you go to the tool, and I'm going to show you in just a few seconds how to get there, and instead of choosing Auburn City, you're going to go to ALSD, Alabama 1. And when you get to this login, you'll put in guest, and that part's at the top of your handout. Guest. I tried it, guest, Auburn City, and it's not accessible that way right now. So if you want to get into this before you get your login, you'll need to go to ALSDE and type in guest. Now the next few slides I'm going to go through quickly because after I get through here, I'm going to move back to the back of the room and we're actually going to look at it live, okay? So once you get into the Insight tool, there will be 3 tabs that you have to choose from. Again, the big categories, math, ELA, and then literacy and all content areas. The standards can be filtered by strand, or if you're math, it's going to say domain, by subcategory, by grade, and they're searchable. Now, one of the things that I've noticed is does a pretty good job or a bad job, depending on how you look at it, of holding on to those filters. So I have before started a search and then did a new search and realized that it didn't let go of my filters. And so if you do that, what you want to do is come up here and click clear all filters and just start over. It's a good rule of thumb. That's what I've been doing when I start a new search, is clearing all the filters. This is an example of what a filter looks like. You can check multiple boxes if you need to. And again, they can be stacked. And what you're looking at here shows where a teacher has gone in and filtered by reading informational text, and in this case, 6th grade. So you can see what filters have been applied. Now let's look at what the columns look like. Excuse me for putting my back to y'all. Right here you see where it says freeze one column, and you'll notice that this column is grayed out. Once we go live and we're looking at it, that means this section, the white section of the screen, is going to scroll while this is going to remain locked in place. Okay? I can also select which columns to view. Looks like this has been filtered by 4th grade. So see, if everything is 4th grade, there's really no need for me to have that column there. So I can go in where it says select columns to view and just uncheck the grade column, and that's going to give me some valuable real estate back. Now, we're going to talk about this print in just a minute. I don't really advise you printing it. Somebody's giggling, you might have already tried it. All right, so let's talk about these FAQs. No, we don't like to be told no. Nobody really likes to be told no, so let's talk about the rationale for no. Can you save it to your computer? No, because first of all, it's web-based software. There's really no need. You're going to have it wherever you are online, but it's copyrighted. That company that created that in Wisconsin, they got paid big bucks to do that, and they don't really want their information being put on a computer or given away for free. We didn't buy the copyright to do that, so I can't save it to my computer. Now, I think I'm going to go in and change their wording from can I copy and paste into Excel to should I copy and paste into Excel? Because if you're a computer nerd like me, you may be thinking, you know what, I can't do that. And you start looking for the workaround, okay? So this doesn't mean it's not possible. It means it's not permissible. But that really should I copy and paste into Excel? Likewise, should I send a copy to my friend in Mississippi? Well, Mississippi didn't pay this Wisconsin company money for Alabama Insight or Mississippi Insight, and so that would be a violation of the copyright to give that away for free. Okay. Let's look at the next question, to which the answer is no. Can I change the content? Now, the default answer is no, because your default login is going to be just where you're viewing the standards. You can interact with them as far as filtering things out, but you won't get to add anything to it unless, and there's 3 ways that school systems do this. Here's one way. In some districts, everybody has a common login except for administrators, whether it be building personnel or school system district personnel. And those people who have a separate login can go in and add some content. And we'll look at what that looks like once we go live into the tool. Okay? Other districts have where everybody has a login that you just view. And it may be that on one of your planning days you have a mapping meeting or some type of curriculum meeting where you where they give you permission to edit. Maybe, you know, January 31st from 2 to 4 you can edit, and then we're going to turn that off. Or some places have decided to do it this way, where a grade level person or at the high school level, a department chair will have editing abilities and nobody else will have those editing abilities. I asked Dr. Freeman about it this morning, and he said those decisions are still being made in the Auburn district. So I can't tell you the answer to that yet. So right now, just know that you're not going to be able to change the content. Now, can you print it? Yes, if you have a lot of paper. And the story from Montgomery is that 2 of the people decided to print the standards, all of them. Language arts, content literacy, math. They knew it was going to take a lot of paper. They started on a Friday afternoon, put like 3 rings of paper in the printer. That's been a big old nice print. Left it going, came back on Monday morning, all the paper was depleted and it was still waiting for more. Okay. At that point, they just decided they had wasted enough paper, stopped the print job, and didn't do any more. So you can print it, but it's going to take a lot of your paper, and I'm going to show you some ways you can cut down on that. Is that what your question was? Okay. So if the answer is no, you can't do this, and no, you can't do this, and no, you can't do that, well, what can you do with it? Well, you're going to use it to unpack those standards so that you can be sure you're teaching what you need to be teaching and your students are getting what they need to be getting out of it. So I'm going to move back here to the computer so that we can go live with the tool. On your handout, there is a link. Looks like that. alex.state.al.us/CCRS. Someone in the earlier workshop noticed this morning, if you type it in like completely HTTPS, that S is going to mess you up. So you may want to just delete that S on your handout. But I usually don't even type that anyway. I just type alex.state.al.us. So once I go there, this is what it looks like. And I'm going to click on the Alabama Insight tool and click on the logo. Now, it's asking me to choose my school system. Now, again, what you're going to do until you get an Auburn City login, you're going to choose, my clicker does this every time, so let me not point to it. You're going to choose ALSDE Alabama 1, but once you get your Auburn City login, you'll go down to Auburn City like I'm going to do today. So I'm going to use my Auburn City login. City schools are at the bottom. You'll choose your district. You'll tap continue. And this is where you get your login. And again, you will all have the same thing. Now, a couple of things I notice here, and I'm not going to be able to point because my pointer tries to advance it ways I don't want it to be advanced. But if you'll look in the top left-hand corner, you recognize the blue and black colors? That's your school district color. So this has happened, I believe, just since yesterday. It looks like they're working on adding a graphic, some distortion right now to it, so there's some more work to be done. All right, also, I don't see any standards here, but I do see tabs to get to the standards. So what I'm going to do is choose literacy in all content areas. Literacy in all content areas. And if I were to select, I'm just going to do it. We'll see how long it takes. I'm going to select here. Now already I have filtered out the language arts stuff and the math stuff. That was not that bad. That was about, what, a 3-second search? 90 standards, okay? The more standards that come up, the longer it's going to take. All right, let me go back a screen because that's not usually how you start. You usually start by putting some filters in place. Now, this is a personal preference issue. What I recommend that people do, even though grade group is listed third, I recommend that you come here first and filter out your grade group because you guys don't need the kindergarten standards, okay? Now, a question that's been asked in the previous sessions today is, what if you are PE? What if you are a math? What if you're a subject area that encompasses more than one of those grades? Okay, there's not a way right now to break it down into separate grade levels. So what you could do, you could select both so that you're seeing all 9 and 10, or you could look at the composition of your classroom and see if most of your kids fall in one category or another. But they're really so close at this point, but it would be a good idea if you looked at both of those, okay? So for today's purposes, just learning how to filter, I'm going to choose 11 and 12. I'll choose 11 and 12, and then I'm going to click Apply. And you can see now where a filter has been applied. And remember how many standards we had first? We had 90 standards. Well, it just cut my standards down to a third of that. So that keeps me, that's going to save my time because 2/3 of that information really was not applicable to me. So I can just filter it out. I can also go to strand. And this is what Dr. Freeman alluded to earlier. You look at historical reading or reading for history or reading for science and technical reading. So if I check, let's say I'm going to do the science and scientific and technical. Now I'm down to only 10 standards. I can go in and put a subcategory in. Let's look at, I'm looking at text complexity. Let's see what comes up there. Okay, now there's only one standard. Okay. Now with that one standard there, let's look at the interface of the program. Again, one column is frozen, and I recommend that you leave it on one column frozen. That way, as you're scrolling along, you're getting reminded of what the standard is, okay? But some that I recommend that you get rid of, just so you can have more stuff on the screen, is this standard ID, because it's really right there. Once you look at this enough, you'll get used to where you see the code. So we've got RST 11, 12, 10, which is exactly what the code is here. And also, if you've already filtered by grade, it's like we said about that 4th grade teacher earlier, there's no reason to leave that grade column there. So I'm going to go to select columns to view, and I'm going to uncheck the standard ID and the grade. And when I click apply, those two columns disappear. Now the next time I log in, they're going to come back. Or if somebody else is logged in on another part of the school with the very same login, it's not going to change what they're looking at. This is dependent on the browser and not the login. Okay, so this is just for one viewing session. So let's look at what we see. Here's the standard. And here's how I know that the students are doing what they need to be doing. By the end of 12th grade, they're going to read and comprehend science and technical text in grades 11 and 12. Okay, so with scaffolding as needed, they're going to read and actively engage in comprehending and appropriately complex science technical text, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So what does that mean for you guys? Teacher vocabulary. These are the terms that you are going to use with your students. Now, I've said this all morning, and I don't mind having this being recorded. You guys are in a good place. Auburn High School is a great place. You're probably already doing this, okay? Not everybody's doing this. So when you get kids from other schools and they come to you, they may have been exposed to that standard, but they may not have been exposed to that vocabulary. This keeps us all kind of on the same page. So as students go and come, they get used to hearing that same vocabulary, and then we can keep our standards high. So just look over this and make sure that you're using the vocabulary that's listed in the Alabama Insight tool. And the next 3 columns are about the students. Here's what they should know. Here's what they should do. And here's what they should understand. If the students understand this, and they can do that, and they know this, then they should be able to do this, which means that they've met the standard. Does that make sense? All right, let's go on in and look at some of these other columns. Notice that I've got custom field 1, custom field 2, 3, 4, and so on. And right now I have the editing turned on, okay? I had them do that so that you could see what it's like if you are assigned a login that gives you editing capabilities. Now this is not something that I'm going to mess with, not even today, because I'm not sure again how you're going to handle that at the district level. I was in one school district recently and I asked, they said they'd set up a custom field. So I asked which custom field they set up, and they set up one for field trips. And that just kind of surprised me, and so I questioned about that. Well, what they had done was gone in, and this particular school went to a dairy in 3rd grade. That was just something that they always did. And so under field trip for this standard that they met by going to the dairy, it said 3rd graders go to whatever dairy. All right, that does 2 things. First of all, keeps 5th grade from going on that same field trip, because they know that they went there in 3rd grade. And also it gives you something to refer back to. So you can say, remember when you were in 3rd grade and you went to the dairy? And then they're all going to go, no, I don't remember going to the dairy. So I'm not sure what custom fields that you're going to have. Can you think of some that you would like to see? Anybody got any? Science teachers this morning said labs, that they would like to have a column for labs, that they could see what labs were being carried out in different classes.
Our Auburn City Schools adopted resources.
Okay, all right.
They do primary readings or resources.
You've got 4 custom fields, and right now no decision has been made about how those are going to be used, but that's a district level. Keep in mind that whatever you see, they're going to see it Drake. They're going to see it all in early ed, okay? Again, it's not going to be tied to your login. It's district-wide. So even though you can edit it, it doesn't mean that you're editing it just for you or just for your school. You're editing for the entire school district, okay? All right, are there any questions so far? Now, somebody up front had a question about printing. I was going to ask you to print screen or... That's honestly what I would do. Let me show you a couple of different things that you can do. First of all, that little arrow right there, if I click that arrow, that gets rid of all that information and that gives me more on my screen. So you can do a print screen. You can also print, but just know that if you have a bunch of columns selected to print, it's going to print a lot of sheets of paper and you're going to have to do some cutting and pasting, and I don't particularly enjoy that, and I don't really know many people who do. So if you're one of those people who does print away and paste away, copy that stuff as you need to. But you've got this tool. The iPad doesn't filter real well. They don't really have it supported with the iPad. So we suggest that you look at this through your desktop or a laptop computer. All right, let me go back here and just look at math. So the first thing I'm going to do, because I'm about to do a new search, is to clear all filters. And notice that this says domain instead of strand. So if I come down here, I look at all these different filters that I could apply to math. Now I always like to show this to high school teachers because this is geometry, and when I apply, look at what grade level we start doing geometry, kindergarten, okay? So here, I've got 40 standards. So I could scroll through here and I could watch my grade level. It's gonna go up through 8th grade, I believe, and then it starts specializing after that. But let's look at what we have that we didn't have before. If I scroll on over, go back up to the top so that you can see. You see now how we have two columns that we haven't looked at before? We've got an Alex resource column and we've got AmSty resources. When that Wisconsin company sold this to the state of Alabama, it came with 6 custom fields. And the State Department took 2 of those, one for Alex and one for AmSty. They left the other 4 for school districts to use. But you've got your Alex resources there. Now remember that I told you Alex and Alabama Insight, that's 2 different animals, 2 different things. But the Insight tool will link out to the Alex resources. So let me say that again. Alabama Insight, that's one thing. You know, everything's got to have its own login. So if you have a login for Alex, that'll be a separate login. You have a separate login for Alabama Insight. You've got 2 separate things. But you can get to Alex from the Alabama Insight. And here's what that looks like. If I scroll down, I want to look at that 8th grade standard. And I want to see some resources that will help me teach this standard of knowing formulas for volumes. Okay, so if I find my Alex resources and I click on Alex resources, it doesn't only take me out to the Alex site, but it takes me specifically on to the Alex site that has that lesson plan. Okay, so let's look at one called Show Me the Money. So under Show Me the Money, do y'all know Nancy Caffey from Blount County? Nancy Caffey has written this lesson plan. There's an overview of it. There are the standards that are addressed. Here are the expectations. This is what they're going to be able to. It tells you exactly how long the lesson is. It tells you what materials you need. She's already got a little, looks like a video there ready for you to watch. There's some attachments. So if you want to have something you want to give to your students to be graded, looks like there's some worksheet stuff there. There's a website, and there's even something to help with remediation. Now, anytime I get a chance to talk about Alex, I always say this, especially at a school like Auburn High School. Anybody ever, by the way, submitted a lesson plan to Alex? Okay. You guys can do this, because probably chances are what you're doing in your classroom is as good as anything you're going to find on the Alex website. It's just you haven't had the time or taken the time to write it up. Okay? Now, the other thing that happens at the high school level is the more specialized you get, the harder it is to find resources. You are a 6th grade teacher teaching everything all day. We would click on a standard and we would see 150 lesson plans for that. Okay, we start specializing and it gets harder to find. So I will be honest with you. If you had a conversation with an elementary teacher about Alex, elementary teacher may be singing Alex's praises and you may be saying, can't find much there for me, but it's worth a look. So let me show you how to get directly to the Alex website, because I told you they were 2 separate things. So on your handout where you have that link, the alex.state.al.us, and before to go to Common Core, remember we did /CCRS. Well, to go to Alex, you're just going to leave off the CCRS. Okay? This is what that looks like. Okay, so from here, we go to courses of study, and let's look at math that Greg and I looked at last night. We were looking at Algebra 1. And now you'll really see a comparison of the course of study and the Alabama Insight tool. Because before with the Alabama Insight tool, you got a standard, and then you got everything drawn out, what to say, what the students should know, and that kind of thing. Okay? This is just the standard. So here's that first one for Algebra 1. Explain how the definition and meaning of rational exponents, and it just lost me right there. I don't know anything about rational exponents. So if I had to teach this, we'd be in bad trouble if I had to teach it, but if you needed to teach it, you would go over and look to the left where you see web resources and lesson plans, and this is what I was talking about. this was sixth grade lesson plan, sixth grade standard, that number would be much higher where it says lesson plan. So I do encourage you guys to submit lesson plans to the Alex website and help it grow. So under lesson plans, I'm just gonna click that number 5. And that's going to take me out to lesson plans. And this is exactly what we looked at before when we looked at Show Me the Money. So here is rational exponents rock. P.D. Watts did this one with the Bessemer. And there's the standard. It tells me all the materials I need. There's a video for me to watch if YouTube is unlocked. There's an assessment strategy. So this really is a really good resource. Now, because Alex was created first, right now there's no correlation back to Alabama Insight. So if you go straight into Alex, you're not going to be referred back to Alabama Insight anywhere. But if you go into Alabama Insight, you may be referred back to Alex depending on if there are resources there or not. So then, let's just kind of recap what we've done. The handout that you have, just a front and back, ARI did that, by the way, and I appreciate them sharing it so that we could use that today. And that just goes through exactly what I showed you today. It shows you how to put in your filters for strands and subcategories. It gives you your login for that ALSDE to Alabama 1. And then you may want to make a note on that handout that if you want to go straight to the Alex website, you'll just leave off CCRS. All right, can you think of any questions, comments? Is there anything you were hoping to learn today that you didn't learn? I do think this is a really good tool. I think it will help us stay on the same page. It will help us make sense of some standards, especially some that have been shifted around with the Common Core. I'm going to put up your evaluation information for you, and I know that you're anxious to get back to your room and have some planning time left.